What's up, everybody? I am Matrix Inc. Today on Ship Talk, we're going to be going over the big changes coming to Star Citizen. Yesterday, they had went live with their 3 lead designers and kind of went over what was exactly expected for 2026 and some very drastic changes coming to certain ships. So let's dive right into it, guys. All right, so first off, we're going to be going over the Grey Cat MFC. That is going to be a crafting type vehicle that won't have any effect towards really base building, but something closer to like crafting armors and such. So very similar to the MDC and the MTC, we're going to be seeing the Grey Cat MFC. All right, now to stay on topic of ground vehicles, we're going to be going over the Anvil Auxilia. This is going to have that classic Anvil Atlas chassis. It's going to have a tier 2 med bed, which I feel like it's going to be very huge for a ground vehicle. And then we're also going to have a crafting bench. All right, now to go over something even more exciting, we're going to be going over the Consolidated Outlands Forge. This was actually introduced to us in the 2024 CitizenCon event. This is in the silhouettes, and apparently a lot of us got it wrong what we thought it was. It is going to be a smaller version of the Pioneer being the big brother. The best thing though is actually going to be able to do the same as when you land on planet. It's going to be extracting resources, and actually you can use those resources for your crafting, which it will have a bigger crafting bench than the Drake Clipper. All right, so now diving into it, we now know that the Aurora is not only getting its gold standard, but we're going to be seeing a Mark II variant, much like the Anvil Hornets. We're going to be seeing the Aurora go into be like more closer to today's standards, but we're going to be actually considering it as a classic ship, much like the Mark I. All right, so now we're going to be diving into the much bigger ships. We're going to start off with the RSI Polaris. We now know that 4.5 is actually going to be bringing a big change to the bridge, to where you can actually control those torpedoes from the bridge at a terminal behind you. Now, it's important to take note that they have no intentions of the pilot ever taking control of the torpedoes. Yes, I know people are pushing it because of the Perseus, but we got to remember the Perseus has size 5 torpedoes rather than the Polaris has size 10s. So the Anvil Carrack did get a small mention that it will be getting a crafting bench in the repair room. So those that are wondering, you will be getting that crafting bench to your Anvil Carrack. All right, so now it was mentioned earlier this year that the last ever concept ship to come to the pledge store will be the battle cruiser. We don't really have a name for it just yet. I don't even know if they actually know what it's going to look like just yet, but it was actually mentioned in yesterday's show that we will see it actually come during the Invictus launch week. It's unclear if it'll actually drop during 2026 Invictus launch week, or could it be even pushed back to 2027. So there's lots of speculation, but there is mention of the battle cruiser. All right, so now we go into the big changes coming to Star Citizen in your ships. We're going to start off with the Hull B with some good news. The Hull B is actually getting an increase of 384 SCU to 512. Now to hit you with some bad news, the Hull D is going from 20,736 to 6,912. And the Hull E is going from 98,304 to 12,288. Don't worry though, I didn't plan to actually end this on bad news. So the Raylan actually went from 328 to 640 SCU. And of course, the best for last, the Ironclad has went from 1536 to 2204. And the Ironclad Assault went from 1152 to 1440. So some very big changes coming to cargo. We now know the Hull B will actually be able to land. So instead of having that standard plus like you would see here, you're actually going to see an X with the cargo grid. So they did that in order for them to make the Hull B actually be able to land on planet, which is going to be very huge for something with 512 SCU. So that's also very exciting. Some very big changes to the Hull D and the Hull E. Unfortunately, those are like bad news for the ones that own it, but I think it's actually good news. The 98,000 to me was always very intimidating. Couldn't imagine ever actually loading 98,000 SCU. So good to see Star Citizen actually like roll those numbers back, actually make them a lot more reasonable. And they did mention that there's no plans in sight for anything coming close to that number. So those that own the Hull D and the Hull E, you're going to be relieved to know that there's nothing actually coming in the near or foreseeable future to beat that number. So good news, yes, bad news, but in all honestly, very good news. So very big news for the Ironclad and the Ironclad Assault. The Ironclad Assault basically got what the Ironclad had already, or at least close to it, and a very big, massive jump in SCU for the Ironclad. So almost 700. So very big numbers. If you're an Ironclad owner, you're like jumping up in your chair to hear that. So very, very exciting. We now know that the manufacturers coming next year will be Drake, Aegis, RSI, Anvil, Misk, Greycat, Origin, Kruger, Gattac, and the Grays Market. They released 27 ships this year, and the plan for Star Citizen to release close to that number next year. They did say like the year before, this year was 23, this year was 27. They want to fall into that number there. So all very exciting news. Yes, some bad news for the whole D and the whole E owners, but all very good stuff. And hey, thanks for watching, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Until next time.